Hi, my name is Leanne Schmidt, and I am the creator and founder of ChartiersCreative.com and also ArtKits.com. And today we are going to be working on a freeform resin geode. It's a mouthful and it's a lot of fun. This is a picture of, well, one of them. Well, it's not really a picture, it's actually really one of them. It has all this beautiful glass. It has real quartz crystals. Some people refer to these as healing crystals. And it has paints and resin, and it has metallic along the edges. And it is really beautiful to do, and it is really beautiful to have. So you may want to give it away as a gift, or you might want to keep it. In your kit, you'll have 3 templates. You'll have a piece of plain plastic like this, and then you'll have 3 different templates, which you can reverse however you want to do. And when you are working on outlining your template, you want to do it on the underside of your plastic. So I want it down here. Okay, so I like it like this. So what I'm going to do is to get it on the underside so that I can come back and trace it with silicone, I'm going to flip the whole thing over. So I'm going to take both pieces and I'm going to flip them both over. And then I'm going to come in with the magic marker, which is included in your kit, and just trace over this. And you know, you don't have to go fast, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Like say you might want a little dip in there and a bigger dip out there. You can do that. You don't want to go too big. You don't want to go too small. You just want to, you know, kind of keep the same space. Because your kit is designed for this space, you don't have a whole lot of extra resin because resin is crazy expensive. But you have plenty to do this kit. So you just come in and you just trace along. Another option, if you want to do this, you don't have to, is you can swap out the centerpiece and put another centerpiece in if you want. I happen to like it together, so I'm just going to keep it together. But that's an option for you. Through it. And the reason you're doing this is because the resin will absolutely adhere to the marker, and it'll show up on the back side of your your geode. So you don't really want that. And I did that. You give it a minute to dry. So now we're going to take our silicone and we're going to start to build the resin walls. So just with a pair of scissors, you want to just get rid of the top there, and you want to come in and you want to just give, this is called a bead, and you just want to come in and go around that template with the bead. Doesn't matter if it's perfect. Geodes are perfectly imperfect, so you don't have to worry about all of that. There. And what we're doing is we're doing 2 things. We're creating the style of the geode, you know, the outer walls. And we're also creating a reservoir that the resin can settle in. This resin. And now we'll let this settle for about 20 minutes. We'll do this about 3 times, and we'll build up a nice wall for the reservoir walls. And you can see it's a little tacky still, which is okay, but it's also firm. And now we're going to come back in and we're going to do another round. Okay, so I am back and ready for our, well, that's still a little sticky, but I think we're going to be okay. We're going to do our final layer for the wall here. And I'm just going to carefully just go right on top of the last wall layer. Want to make sure we don't have any areas where it can come out. So I think I'm just going to let this set, and then I will be back later to start the next phase. We may have one more layer of just building. And you want to be careful not to just, you know, do this as you work. I actually tried that once, and the silicone ended up getting caught in between the resin, and it wasn't a very, you know, it's kind of a hassle to get it out, and in some cases I didn't get it out. And it's, you know, your first pour isn't really that deep. It's really about getting the resin on the base. And I have some cool tricks that I will show you. Okay, so we're back, and we have a nice firm wall of silicone here, good reservoir. And before we mix up our resin, the next step should be to mix up our color. And you can mix up multiple colors. This is actually a really cool part of the experience here. We're going to take our colors, and you can use these colors straight out of the box, or you can blend them. And I'm sort of a blender kind of person, so I'm going to take a little bit out, and I'm going to put it on. Now, you have the extra plastic from the templates that you're not using. Go ahead and grab one of those, and then just mix your colors up in here. You don't need a lot. I promise you just don't need a lot. So I'm going to do a little bit of yellow. I'm going for a teal color. So like a aquamarine maybe. So once this is mixed up and you know what colors you like, you can have multiple colors. Just, I recommend mixing them up now and then doing your resin. And then once your resin is ready, then you can divide it into however many cups, and then add your color. And you want to do it one drop at a time, like one drop, just only one drop. Can't hardly stress that enough. And now we're going to mix our resin, and I'm going to show you a couple of tricks for mixing resin. Not too hard. I'm just going to move this out of the way a little bit. So you have different size cups here. You have these smaller cups, and then you have this larger cup. And really, you're gonna, you know, you have a total of about 8 ounces of resin. So, but we're gonna do about 3 pours, maybe 4, but definitely 3. And some kits did not have this because I didn't think of it until later. But on the side of your sticks, they all have a little black magic marker line. If you're using the smaller cup, when you measure and you put this in, it should measure just below, I mean, like, you know, touching the black line. But if you're in here, it should be just above the black line because it's slightly more narrow on the inside. So that adjusts for everything. And it doesn't matter which cup you do for which, but you know, you can mix in each of these, and then you can use these for other colors. So divide this, I think, into 3 because I'm going to use a little bit of gold too. Okay, so now that I've mixed the resin, you can see how frothy it is. This is tons and tons of bubbles that we'll have to release later. Okay, so I don't need a lot. Let's see. I'm gonna do white. This will be white in a minute. Just a little bit. This will be a little bit of gold. Don't need much. So I have this much here, and even less for the gold, about half as much, maybe. And now I'm just gonna take this color, and I hope you can see this. I'm just gonna take a pinch, like see how much? It's not very much at all. Now I'm going for a very translucent look. If you want it to be opaque where you can't see through it, you can go much darker, but I just wouldn't. Okay, so I'm just gonna take that little bit and I'm gonna mix it in. Okay, so that's one drop, basically, we'll say. Okay, I'm gonna come in for another one. There's two. You can already see the color changing. Okay. Take just a little more. That's about what I'm going for. Nice, kind of reminds me of like almost like an aquamarine. Very pretty. Okay, so that's my aquamarine. And now I'm going to have a little bit of white. So again, that's probably too much, for especially because this is so much smaller. So that's all I'm mixing in. And you can see how, you know, it gets opaque pretty fast. Just that one little tiny drop. Now I want this white to be a little bit more opaque, so I'm going to grab a little bit more. And you notice I never put the resin back into the paint. Okay, so this looks pretty good to me. This will create a nice contrast with that. And now the last color is going to be gold. You might have a smaller container, but you still won't use it all. Okay, so then this one, I'm just going to blend this together, just make sure it's mixed. And that's already too much. Well, maybe it's not, I don't know. We'll see. So here I'm just going to mix it in. Yeah, maybe I need a little more. Okay, so I'm just literally getting the back of the stick wet. Okay, so I want this to be very opaque. I want it to look gold. I don't want it to look, you know, transparent at all. So actually I think I want a little more. Okay, so adding more. Yeah, you know what? So I'm just using one of these. I'll do two in that one, and then I'll do just a little scoop for these other ones. And the glitter, I was never much of a glitter person, but I know some people are. But it really does it helps with the depth. It really creates a great effect. And now we're going to take our packet of sand, pour it into your hand, and then, you know, spread it around like you would sprinkle salt. We want to have a nice layer. You will not see this. I mean, this, you'll see the effects of it. You'll see, you know, because it's sparkly, so you'll just think you're seeing a little bit of glitter. But this helps to harden it. Otherwise, sometimes the resin can warp. This helps with the warping. So you want to just get like a nice even coat. It's okay if you have a little more in places. Okay, so the first one, I'm going to come in, and I have this blue. Okay, I'm going to come in, and I'm just going to gently lay this over top, and I'm going to just keep going in circles. Now this is self-leveling resin, so it will, it will find the outer parts. So you want to just keep going around, and you want to scrape out every last bit that you can. I just scrape it right off the cup because who cares? And then, so you might look at this and think, oh my gosh, there's not enough to fill this up. And, but there will be. It's kind of weird how it works, but, so you first pour it in. And then you take one of your sticks and you just kind of move it around a little bit. You don't really want to play too much with that sand. You just want to cover it. You don't want to blend it in or anything. It'll figure itself out. And now we're going to take this white, which is it's not completely translucent, but it's nice. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to bring it right in here. I'm not going to go to the outer edge. I'm going to let that drift out there. And now I'm just going to come around and do a few rings all the way inside. Because this is where our crystals are going to go later. And you can absolutely have color. We will add color to the next layer in this section. But it really does kind of make them sparkle when you have a little bit of white under it. So, and you can actually, you can put a colored resin over those too. So if you kind of want to make it look like a different color quartz, you can do that, which is kind of cool. Okay, and then, I'm just trying to push it up to the edge. I want to, I'm looking to get a good seal here. I'm on a nice flat surface, so once it comes up against these resin, like this silicone wall, it'll create another seal. So now I'm going to take the last color that I have mixed, which is the gold, and I'm going to treat this. Looks almost like caramel. It's so pretty. Okay, so now I'm going to come in and I'm going to drizzle this, and I'm going to actually start in the cup, because sometimes when you first do it, you get a big blob and then everything else is thinner. So I don't really want the big blob on here. I want it, I'd rather have it in the cup. And go around the form of the geode. That's part of what sort of brings it to life. Okay, so now I'm going to make a few rings. Okay, so now you're going to take your spray alcohol. It may look like this, or it may be a different kind of bottle. And all you want to do is you just want to come in and you want to spray it a few times. And this is the bubble release. In this stage, the next thing you can do, and I would only do just a little bit at a time. I want to clean my hand a little more. You can take some of your stones and just a few, not all of them, because they are going to kind of push out towards the middle. It's just the way it works. So you just put a few in, and what you're doing is you're building up that base. The geodes, it's like every element that we have here works together. And it's all about the layers. So I'm coming in pretty close to the edge, and I may push those in a little more. I'm definitely not going to put all my glass in here right now. And I'm not going to put my crushed glass in at all yet. So yeah, so now you're going to let this sit for a while. Maybe a couple more pieces here. So you're going to let this sit and cure for a little while, and then you'll be ready for your next step. And you can come in and make swirls, or you can, do whatever you want. Hi there. Okay, we're back, and this is nice and hard. Some of these did float out a little bit, and now we're about to get ready for our next pour. This is our second pour, and like always, you want to start by mixing your colors first. So I'm just going to use a small craft stick and load it up by that much. And the smaller one, obviously, I'm going to do a little less. It just gives it a little pop of wow, you know? Really, I could give you a lot more paint, and it's not, because I'm being miserly, but I just want you to think small when you're mixing these colors, because they are so powerful in resin. But this is absolutely gorgeous. Can you see this? going to spread this out a little bit, just making sure I get it up against the edge. Especially because I put the rocks in so they can block it a little bit when it's leveling. I'm not trying to cover the rocks, I'm just trying to make sure that I have resin around the rocks. And see, like I'm making like little rivers in here, but it'll automatically fill up and level itself out. So now we're gonna spray this to do the bubble release. You'll notice right away that it becomes a lot clearer too. Like you'll see the bubbles disappear and you'll see the color really jump out. I think I'm going to add just a few more of these rocks. This is crushed mirror glass, which is in your kit. It's very pretty, it's very sparkly. The back side, one side has mirror, one side has white, and then the other sides are just like a clear glass. Very pretty. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just pulling this out. And it comes out really easy as long as you do one main coat. I mean, one, you know, like as long as you do your silicone wall before you start pouring. If you try to add more silicone after you start pouring, that is never that easy, just FYI. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a little bit of this glass. I'm going to take this glove off. I'm going to add a little bit of this glass around here. Now there's a bit of a lip, which I don't think you can see, but so I'm gonna build on that a little bit. I'm just gonna put a little bit of this glass going around. I'm just gonna put it right in here, and all I'm doing is building up another wall before I put the crystal down, the quartz. So this is gonna do, oops. And when I mix up some resin, I'm just gonna mix up a tiny bit because I just want to solidify this part and basically create a new wall without any silicone, because this will be part of the final piece. And it does really add to it. I mean, this piece here, that's exactly what I did. I added some of this crushed glass underneath, and then I added the quartz crystal on top. So that's what we're doing here. I'm going to mix up the tiniest amount of resin. And I'm just going to pour it over this, and then I'm going to let that settle. Mark your stick wherever you want, just so long as you have the same amount. That's all that matters. So I really don't even need more than that. Maybe a little more. I encourage you to measure this if you're not familiar with measuring, because again, you don't want it to not settle. So I'm going to mix this up for 3.5 minutes, and then I will be back and we'll do this layer right here. So I'll see you in a few. So now, same thing, I'll just drizzle this around. I want to give the crystal something to be able to stick to. And I'll have the sparkle kind of in between them from the crushed glass. And now we have our crystals. So I'm going to dump those out and just start laying them in. And, you know, don't be afraid to put little ones next to, you know, big fat ones. They all work together. It's okay to flip them around, see which way you like the way it looks better. That one actually works pretty well like that. And now I'm going to bring this in and just drop it, like just drizzle along the top. Just on the back end though, because I want this to weight it down and make sure that they don't accidentally fall in, because they can do that. So this will help them stay sticky, and then once it hardens, they're in. And then we have that extra reservoir. Hi there. So we are now at effectively our last pour, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some paints for this this blue piece. It really reminds me of like a mermaid's tail. It's just the color is really pretty. So the last pour around the crystals, the quartz here, has hardened. It was a clear pour, so you really couldn't see the difference, which was what I was going for. I really didn't want to color the crystals at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up my colors, and then I will mix up the resin, and then we'll do the pour. Okay, I'm back, and the resin is all mixed up. I saved you 3.5 boring minutes, and it looks good. So now I'm going to mix up three different colors. I'm going to do the blue, transparent, like translucent blue. I'm also going to do a little bit of silver and a little bit of white, and I do mean a very tiny bit of white. So here goes. So pretty. And I'm going to go right over the existing rocks that are already in here, the glass. And then I'm going to come back over it with silver and white. Now you see when I'm pouring, I'm coming close to the crystals, but I'm not really going over them. You can if you want to color the crystals. In this case, I want them to really look like crystals. So, oops. Now remember, this part here is your silicone, and that part will be coming off at the end. And then, I mean, you know, once it's fully dry, we'll take that off, and then we'll paint the edges a metallic. That really wraps it up. I mean, it looks really amazing once you do that. Now, you don't have to use all the glass. I mean, I'm looking pretty good here, but you know, it's here, so why not? And you don't have to go exactly like I'm going. You may alter your glass however you want. You know, I mean, part of being creative is just going for something different. It doesn't have to be different. It could just be a learning experience and just cool. Okay, so I'm going to spray this again because I see some more bubbles coming up. And this is your final pour, so you may want to look around and make sure our blue piece we'll peel this off of the plastic. A couple of runners. And then we'll just take this off. Comes off like magic. It's really nice. Really nice. Oh, so this one gave me a little bit of a thing here, but it came off. I was able to just snap that off. Just trim any jagged edges.